Hey guys and gals, it's Logan Freeman, and this is the LiveFree Investors Podcast, where I interview investors and business owners who share investment advice so you too can live free. Today, I am talking to Julie Holly. Julie, in a few sentences, please tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm an everything kind of person, but most importantly, I am impact investing in the multifamily space, and I am loving every second of it.
Awesome. Okay, so impact investing. That's a very curated way to say that. So let's dive into that a little bit. What does impact investing mean to you?
Right. So I finally embraced this. Logan, I have been fighting this. It's been my push to be in the multifamily space, part of my passion project, if you will. And I've heard so many people say, like, Julie, you can't do this. You can't make money at this. It's not going to work. And but I have connected with people who have made this work, who have more experience doing heavy lifts and providing it to a community that I have. This is the first time I've actually said I'm an impact investor.
Okay.
And I am like, just because it's the heart and soul of what, it's not just about returns. And
Right.
So I love that. And I'm going to set the world on fire with impact investing.
Well, I know you will. And if you haven't already, and so maybe you can set the world on fire to melt some of this snow that we have. And I know that you probably have too.
I'm looking out at it. Yes.
Okay. So very interesting. You said something there that really, impacts me, because I was just speaking the other day about, let's not forget about why we're doing what we're doing. Sure, it's great for personal and professional growth for us as investors and as developers and sponsors, but it's also fantastic to do a good job. Our end product is providing safe, affordable housing for families and for individuals out there. And so, I think that sometimes gets lost in the commercial real estate space. So let's not forget about that. And if you have investors, let's also not forget about the fact that you are serving them as well, and they are serving you. So it's just like this this kind of profit circle. I think that if you do it the right way, everybody can and should win. But in our industry, I see it a lot. I'm sure you do as well. A lot of times things feel a little more one-sided. So I think that impact investing can mean a multitude of things, and definitely means a lot to me as well.
Well, and to piggyback off of that, Logan, that's exactly it. Since the moment I entered the multifamily space, one of the things that drew me into this space was everybody can win. And that's my heartbeat, is like, why there don't have to be losers. If somebody wants to be a winner, they can win. And I was trying to find that missing puzzle piece, because I'm like, we all know it, and I'm going to just preach what everybody already knows for a second. But, a deal done well means that our investors are winning. It means that residents are winning. It means that the community is winning. It's like everybody is winning. And when we have people that are in their homes and they feel safe and they feel secure in their dwelling place, they are going to be better people. They will be better family members. They will be better people in the community, which then this is just like this complete uplifting thing. And so it was just a matter of finding, like, how do we do this in a way? I don't know how to do this. And I had to admit that I don't know how to accomplish this, but finding teammates, finding people who have success in that space. And here's the thing. I'm just going to harp on this for a moment, Logan. When we say, hey, I'm going to go do a value add, how many people are actually adding value versus just changing some mismanagement around? Like, let's talk about that for a second. Like, what really is adding value to a property? Because if you acquire a property and you're like, yeah, so I'm going to go in, and you have, your CapEx budget, and you're supposed to be putting in, new air conditioners and such. And then you sell it 5 years, as you dispose of it. And next thing you know, that hasn't been done. Did you really do your job? Can you tell? I'm like, I promise I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I just have a passion. Like, let's go change the world.
No, I totally agree. Right. And a piece of it, like my LinkedIn post, I think it was on Monday or Tuesday this week, was, look, our wall fell down. Nobody's living
before close, right?
Before close, a wall fell down. And so I think that adding value needs to be materially substances that you're adding to the property, whether that be, replacing a bad manager, because that can do a lot. But there's never a property that you purchase that is just perfect. There's always something that can be done to improve the quality of the living conditions for your tenants, which, I think that, or your residents, as I should say. And I think a lot of folks, think about, what's the best rent that I can get? And that's fine. But at the same time, too, let's talk about turnovers, because when you get less turnovers, it means more wins for you and for your residents, because they're not having to find another place, and you're keeping, a family or somebody already that was already in your building there. And so I think that there's less focus on the turnover rate than there is, well, if they leave, then great, we could just replace them with somebody that'll pay higher rent. When you really look at it from a 5-10 year hold period, the lower amount of turnovers you have is probably going to be better for you. And so, needless to say, we try to retain as many people as we possibly can. And that starts with the condition of the property, because that's a direct representation of who owns that property and what they're willing to do. And then obviously the people who are operating it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, this is being really well received by investors of a variety of ages, from someone that is, in their early 20s to an investor I spoke with who, passive investor, in her 67 years old. And she asked me one day, she said, okay, so Julie, what's your ideal investment, right? Normal question. So I said, well, the ideal and the correct answer and what every passive investor wants is this. But I said, you know what, here's the passion. Here's what I believe is like the ideal property, and your money double downs. Like, who doesn't want their money to go the distance? Like, how about you can get your return and your money can be doing some philanthropic work in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Your money is like here stateside doing something powerful.
Yes, absolutely. That's the definition of a win-win. It's difficult to create in today's landscape. But
really?
That's what we get paid to do as sponsors and developers, right? That's exactly what our investors are expecting, not just to take something that was brought to you, but to actually go seek out something that is fundamentally disruptive and that you can fix. And that's my whole mantra is, in life, you get paid to the proportion of the size of the problems that you solve. And if you shy away from those problems, you should not be in this business, because it goes like this: walls fall down and then they get rebuilt back up, and you keep moving forward. But being able to deal with those ups and downs, peaks and valleys in this business is crucial to anybody's success.
A lot of that has to do with who you're surrounded with. And I know you and I agree with that, but when you have a high caliber team that you're working with and people that you can depend on, and that when you get together, the synergy is powerful and you can come up with those creative solutions and say, okay, what's the best way to fix this well? I mean, we all know ways to fix the well. We know who we can call, but what's the best play in this exact moment?
Absolutely. Okay. This has been unique last 12 months. There's been a lot of things happen. We have a change in our presidency, and we have a change in, the way that people live their lives, the way that they're working, very disruptive last 12 months. So keeping up to date on all of those current opportunities and trends can really be a challenge. Tell me your thoughts on how you have been able to overcome that challenge.
It does present challenges, but anyone who's been in real estate for anyone who's been alive paying attention for any period of time knows that there is a cycle to everything. I mean, come on, Lion King was spot on. I'm not quoting anyone famous like you. You're so good at it, but I'm just going to say circle of life. I mean, there is a natural ebb and flow. And so sure, we could say, oh, it's the pandemic, it's this, it's that, but it's always going to be something. And the moment we just accept that challenges and adversity are going to come, how will I respond? Who am I? And so through all of that challenge, through the pandemic, for me, it was more of a position of, this is who I'm choosing to be. And and I'm still going after it. And I put the blinders on and I just said, great, all these things are happening. And some people are putting their head in the sand, and some people are just overpaying for lots of reasons. Some of them good, I talked about that, but, putting those blinders on and going after it. And I think even now is more important than ever. to be on your A game,
Yeah.
ready to play.
Absolutely. We have a lot of still amazing things, available to us as just individuals. I think that we still live in the most incredible time to further yourself, but also be able to take it in the other way, right? I talk about the compound effect. You can tap into the compound effect right now better than any other time in history with all of the books, all of the videos, everything that you can connect with. But that also can go in the other direction with all of the news and all of the apps that can be wonderful. They can also be absolutely detrimental. And so being able to decipher and put boundaries on certain things. I know you talked a lot about boundaries on, just different things in your own life on a recent video that I watched. And so I do the same thing. And so you always have to be cognizant that something that can be really, really good, it typically can also have the other effect if you don't use it in the best way possible. So that's something that has shown its ugly and beautiful head to me over the last 12 months. So I really appreciate that and your perspective on that. I like the blinders, right? You got to put those blinders on and move forward.
Logan, think about this. Like those of us who had the blinders on and I like take little morsels from the media. Just, you have to understand what's going on. So
Yes.
You can't okay, I don't know what's going on in the world, but you also can't ingest so much of it that is running you. And unfortunately, a lot of people were overrun with fear instead of saying, okay, these things are happening. They are completely outside of my control. Mm-hmm. And as a recovering control freak, I'm really versed in understanding what is, no, sometimes I mistake everything as being in my control.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I realize this pandemic, everything going on, I can't control, but I can get ahead even now. Mm-hmm. And so, sometimes you just have to dig down. It's like today, on Finish Strong Friday, you're talking about, the diamond effect. And it's like, that pressure effect. And it's like, okay, here's the pressure. And this pressure allowed me to gain momentum in other ways. I wanted to be closing on a ton of assets last year. I was bummed. Nothing penciled out. Nothing made sense. And it was really frustrating for me, as an investor. Yeah. And I could have just wallowed in that, but I chose to say, okay, I'm still looking at this. I'm reviewing, I'm moving forward, but I'm going to really push hard over here as well. I'm going to network my butt off and I'm going to get to know people and I'm going to add so much value. I created almost 2,000 minutes of content last year.
Wow.
Right.
That's incredible. That is how many hours is that? So 60 minutes in an hour, 2,000. So let's just say 20 hours. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's incredible.
So that's what you can do when you decide to say, I can't control that, but I can chart this part of my path and still work on this other part and put the blinders on to all the negativity. Yeah. That negativity will suck you down.
I think that this is where I always say goals suck, because goals in the sense of, look, you had a goal of going and buying a certain amount of assets last year. It didn't happen. It was outside of your control. However, that goal now has control over you if you let it, because it says, hey, you didn't accomplish me. Now it's a negative. No, you have to reframe that and understand goal is just a starting point. It moves you towards where you want to go. Nobody's perfect. You don't set the right goals, right? And so you have to be careful. You have to date those goals, but don't marry them. You have to date them. You have to be really careful, because they can really start to make you feel bad when you don't start to hit those. But you have to be willing to just really dive in and say, look, I didn't hit that goal, but I did everything that I possibly could. And that's why my definition of success is always reared in John Wooden's words of success is, the self-satisfaction in knowing that you did your best job that you were capable of doing. Okay. And only you can tell yourself that. You can't lie to yourself, because you always, no matter where you are there, no matter where you go, there you are. Right. And so I always tell people that goals suck. They're because if you let them, they will really drain you. And it sounds like you allowed that to even fuel your fire even more. So tell us how you reframe that. how did you think through that? And how did you say, hey, I had a goal, I didn't hit it, but I did do all of these things and still made that a positive?
Sure. You know what's exciting? This is one thing I feel. I am always grateful for another year of life, and I'm grateful for the experiences that you collect through
Yeah,
life, because they can really aid you. Even the difficult things that I've had to go through, those fuel me and give me an
sure.
understanding, right, framework. And so when I look at my goals, I am looking at, okay, well, this is where I'm headed.
Hmm.
But you know what? Sometimes you hit a roadblock. Like I'm up on the Canadian border in far north Idaho. If I have to drive back to California, which is not my favorite thing to do, there's going to be some road work somewhere in Nevada,
Yep.
right? And I'm going to have to take a detour route. And that's what we have to look at our goals as. Like, hey,
That's a good
I
one.
have a goal. I'm going to California, but dang, why did they decide to redo this whole like desert freeway?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going out of my way. And sometimes, Logan, you have to go so far out of your way.
Mhm.
It feels painful. It feels like maybe sometimes I've even felt like in real life and metaphorically and in reality, like, oh, this feels like I'm getting lost. Am I really on the right path? But it ultimately takes you to the right place. And so you have to have that clarity on what you're going after, where you want to go,
Mm.
and you have to know why you want to get there so you don't quit getting there. But you can't change the path that's going to take you there. You
Yeah.
have to just take the path that's given to you.
Very well put. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And let's move on to one of my favorite questions, because this kind of goes in a lot of different directions. But what's the best advice that you've received as an investor and a business owner?
Oh, so much good advice. I think the best advice is really the most simplistic
Mm.
advice. Never give up.
I love it. I
Like,
absolutely
it,
love it.
like the moment that, like, if you really truly believe in something, if you're really going after it, like, why would you start something, right? Are you interested, or are you actually committed? And if
Sure.
you are committed to something, if you're committed to your business, if you're committed to your passion project or your cause or whatever, you're not going to quit. You're going to want to
Yeah.
quit. The best advice is never, ever give up. And I happen to have a rock star husband who reminds me of that. And when things get tough, he quotes, and I have a terrible time remembering people, but he quotes this one guy, and he's like, yeah, remember in such and such book, he's like, remember in this book. And
Yep.
the author said, like, it's always right there. It always gets the most difficult right before you have your big breakthrough.
Yeah. One of
So,
my favorite stories, Julie, that reminds me of this is Dale Carnegie, I think, wrote this way back when, but basically it was the story the story was called Being 4 Feet from Gold, right? So this group of miners, got wind that in San Francisco there was going to be a bunch of awesome gold in the ground. So they went out and they bought all this machinery and they did all of these things, hired all these people, and they dug 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 for like 6 months. And after 6 months, they said, no more, we're done. This is crap. Somebody bought that land from them, dug 4 feet deeper, and hit an absolute gold mine. And so that is a true story that I think that Dale Carnegie wrote, but I always reminds me, one second. Okay, so that's one of my favorite stories in the sense of, hey, don't give up. And I remember in high school and in college, I think this was a Notre Dame thing where they always had a sign right before the wall that you walked out that always said, never give up. And we always used to slap that,
I love it.
Yeah, so we walk underneath that thing and never give up. So absolutely fantastic advice, and easier said than done. But usually the best advice that you get is simple. It's just not easy, right?
Boy, I'll tell you, keep it simple, right? And I'm somebody that can aim for that complexity in everything, and I am a master at overcomplicating things. I'm becoming so much better at just keeping it super streamlined and
Yeah.
simple and lightweight, And when you do that, you actually open up a whole host of doors. It's
Yeah.
so much better.
One of my favorite other favorite stories is I love Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. And when Thoreau was out at Walden Pond living, on berries and stuff like that, just writing, he came back and he said, somebody asked him, hey, what was the best lesson that you learned? And he said, simplify, simplify, simplify. But then Emerson caught wind of that and he said, that's great advice, but I think one would suffice. So just, right? I mean, let's simplify that even more and just say it once. So just the old guys going back at it, you know, and who knows how long that took one to get to the other, but I just think that's so beautifully put.
It is. Well, how often do people like find themselves in their like pseudo productive tasks that really, I raise two hands for this. And this is something that I like 2020 definitely taught me, like, what do you need to let go of? Is that really what you need to be doing? Do you really need to be spending your time on that? And so you have to just shave it off and let it go, you know, peel that potato back.
So I've been posting a lot about this and, we kind of think about it in our business that you got $10 task, $100 task, $1,000 task, and then $10,000 task. And most people get really good at doing $10 and $100 tasks. And unfortunately for those folks, even though they're extremely good at those tasks, they're never going to get rewarded for doing those tasks. So tell me how you have been able to identify maybe some of those $1,000 and $10,000 tasks in your own business and what you're letting go of.
Well, you know what, Logan? I'm just going to say I have it right here. Everyone who is on my podcast, they know I'm obsessed. The high performance planner. That is a new practice in my life, right? Okay, no joke. You're my inspiration. Like, I was reading that book and then you posted something and you had that planner and I reckon, I'm like, that's the planner, you know? And I know, like, you're someone that I want to emulate. Like you're on this path, you're way further down this path of where I want to be. And so you have to find people that you can say, okay, what are they doing? Success leaves clues. How, like, what can I adopt from this person and that person and,
that's right.
and put into my own life. And so to answer your question, to find those tasks, you have to start looking at your use of time the same way you look at your diet, the same way you look at your exercise, the same way you look at your bank account. And I'm just going to say, most people don't.
Yep.
Most people just put something on their task and they don't think twice about it. And so now I look at my time in a completely different way. And that's allowing me to see, what do I need to let go? Is that really the best use of my time? How is that going to how's it going to further my cause? And so that's how I'm quantifying exactly what I'm doing. And I needed that.
Sure.
And people can find whatever tool works for them at this time. It might change, but like over on the Compression podcast, you know, you and Jerome talk about this, like, hey, you have personally used a lot of different resources.
Yep.
And you figured out what works and borrowed from this one and that one. And you figured out what works for you. And that's what you do. You figure out what's propelling you forward.
That's right.
Instead of just spinning your wheels idly going like, oh, I don't know what's going to work for me. You will never know what you need to shed until you're engaging it. And that means you have to be courageous. You have to be willing to say, I kind of suck in this area. This is going to be painful to change this habit. So
yeah, that's great advice. It's a good reminder for me too. You know, the journal that you're referring to, I have been studying the Pareto's principle. Julie, if anybody is watching this and not listening to it, this is my new favorite book of all time. It's absolutely unbelievable what Perry gives away in that book. And I basically, from a modeling standpoint, I'm on every single list of his. I have not engaged him on his monthly kind of, you know, Renaissance Club or whatever, new Renaissance Club, because I just don't have physically the time to put that in my schedule right now. But I am on every mailing list he has because to me, he's a top copywriter. Who are the most successful guys? You got Perry Marshall, you've got Anthony Iannarino, you've got Grant Cardone, you've got all these people that utilize marketing and email. And what's the one thing that they all do? They email you 5 times a day and they don't care, right? So that's really,
I needed to hear that.
So I'm really like reserved on emailing my list more than once a week. And but when I look at this, he has a kind of a concept calling racking the shotgun, meaning, hey, if you got 5,000 people on your list, cool. Who's going to buy from you? Who's going to invest with you? Rack the shotgun, send out a signal, right? This was an old story that this mentor took one of his mentees into a what are those places that you call a casino? Sorry, I don't ever go there, but he took him
Stay away from them.
and he said, when I'm going to rack this shotgun, literally, I'm going to go, and the people that turn around, those are the ones that you do not want to play against. You go play against people that are oblivious, right? And so you want to rack the shotgun. But just like concepts like that, I'm like, holy cow. If I email somebody 5 times in a week and they drop off, bye-bye, no problem. They probably weren't going to do business with me anyways. I'd rather have 2,000 raving fans that do, follow me religiously than having 100,000 people that delete my emails. And so that has been a complete framework shift in my thinking, is racking the shotgun and then taking that Pareto's principle. So I'll show you something that I do that you might want to do. Up here in the task section, you can see 20%, 80%.
Oh, dang.
So now cool. I don't just have, hey, those are the tasks that I know have to get done. If I get to the 80, great, but I've got to focus on the 20. So that has completely leveled my game up with the journal recently. And the self-satisfaction that I get when I say, okay, it's 3 o'clock, but everything on the 20% and half on the 80% is done, I can allow myself to feel successful for the day. And you have to be able to get to that point for yourself, because I'm a type of guy, if I have any downtime, I'm in a book, I'm in a podcast, I'm running, I'm lifting weights, but Perry also is so adamant about the fact that you have to have some self-love time. So I've been starting to schedule mini vacations. I talked about that on compression. Perry also is not just this guy who made a ton of money doing nothing. He's built and sold over 4 companies, and now it's worth, I think, about 600 or 800 million. And so he knows what he's talking about. He's a practitioner of what he has done. I'm not even close to that, And so I'm just watching him. And so one way that I love to learn is all the people that we read from, all the people that we listen to, go get on their lists and start to emulate what they're doing. Here's what I found. There's very few that actually do what they write about. And the ones that do are the ones you want to really, really pay attention to, because a lot of them will write a book and then they just fall into everybody else's marketing, world, because they're too busy and they're outsourcing it. But a guy like Perry, these other folks that I follow religiously are like, practicing exactly what they're preaching. And that has made all the difference to compress what I'm trying to accomplish.
That's amazing. And I will echo on that whole concept of taking time for yourself, especially if you're somebody who's highly ambitious. And I fall into that category. Yep. And in all reality, and this is going to resonate with somebody in the audience, the people that you love the most, you can start neglecting them. Yep. Because, I just have one more project, just one more. Okay, it's going to be 1 month. It's just 1 month commitment to really push hard on this project. Yep. And those months stack up, and you have to be really completely aware of that. And so even I'm learning, Logan, I'm learning to reschedule. And I used to be completely opposed to rescheduling. And now it's like, you know what? I know that my tribe needs me. And so this call is just simply going to have to be rescheduled, because I want them there. They're going to be there when I'm like 80 years old. So I'm going to be there now. Yeah. But that's a hard thing to do.
I have polarized some people doing that. And I've lost some potential, business relationships doing that. But when I filter it back to my faith, family, friends, and fitness, faith, family, fitness, and future is the last one on there. And so when that starts to cloud the other 3 is when I have to really put boundaries back on it. So I love that notion. It's not easy. It is not easy. It's not fun. But if somebody
it's humbling. Yeah. It's absolutely humbling to say, wow, I'm apologetic. I'll own it. But if somebody kind of like what you're saying, and it goes back to 80/20 as well, which I'm going to have to read this book or listen to it, but I'll have to buy it because I'm going to mark it. I already know that. You want to buy it. I'm a hard copy person, tab mark. But my point is that you need to be able to Like if that person isn't somebody that can understand that and recognize that, because I will do the same for someone else. If you said, hey, Julie, you know what? I need to put off this recording. I need to take care of this with my wife or my kids. I'm going to be like, high five, you go take care of your family. And if somebody doesn't do that, respond that way back to me, that tells me our values aren't aligned.
Right.
And if our values aren't aligned on that level, probably not going to be aligned in the business world. And it might be a little bit rough going. Rack that shotgun.
Yes, rack the shotgun. I'll give a prime example of this. Mark Hunter, who has over 200,000 followers on LinkedIn and has written, 5, 6, 7 best-selling sales books. Had a call scheduled with him earlier this week. I had to reschedule, and Mark said, "No problem, man. Hey, I'll get back on." And that guy's playing at that level. I'm this little, and he was understanding enough. That speaks volumes to Mark and who the man that he is. So
I already like this guy.
yeah, it was really cool. I actually got connected to him through speaking at Yona's meetup group not too long ago. Somebody knew him and said, "Hey, you got to talk to Mark Hunter." I was like, "Well, I've read all his books. So I'll talk to him." Of course.
Right.
Why not? All right.
Right.
Well, that was a beautiful little segment there, and I appreciate you sharing all of that. This is a social show. This is your opportunity to promote somebody that should come on. And like I mentioned before we started recording, I'm pretty selective, so you better make a good choice. But what other successful business owner and investor like yourself should come on the LiveFree Investors Podcast?
Okay, there are, my mind just exploded because I love connecting people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Logan, I have to choose one. That's so hard. But there is somebody that is, just up and coming, powerful rising star. And she's bright and brilliant and amazing. I mean, she's already crushing it. So awesome. Don't get me wrong, okay? But Camilla Jeffs, you got to have her on the show. She is amazing. And you will absolutely thoroughly enjoy her. And I cannot believe what she's able to accomplish. She has, I think, 12 children. I'm exaggerating. My point is she has a very large family. Yeah. She has a W-2 job, and she's out there crushing it in the multifamily space as well.
Awesome. I cannot wait.
Extraordinary.
All right. And I want more women on the show too. I was just talking to Leica yesterday, talking about you actually. So she's a rock star. You're a rock star. Can't wait to connect with Camilla. And, if anybody knows that I work with the only, woman commercial real estate broker, managing member of a firm here in Kansas City on purpose, right? Like I do that on purpose because I don't need just another guy's perspective on everything. You should see the ability that she has to think differently in high stress situations that all the guys just run through and bulldoze through. So I very much appreciate that. Awesome.
That is fantastic.
All right. This is one that I did not prep you for. You may or may not have read Tim Ferriss's book, Tribe of Mentors. One of my favorite books to kind of dive into a lot of different authors and speakers and really successful people. And I think Tim is gifted in the sense that he really thinks through the way that he asks questions. But, this question is one of my favorites and I think I know your answer. So I'm just going to make sure that you can't say this. You cannot say never give up, okay? Because we've already done it. So I'm going to make it a little bit harder for you. If you, metaphorically speaking, could have a billboard that 1 billion people would see in one given year, they would drive by it and see a big billboard, on a regular basis, what would that message be? And tell me a little bit about why you choose that.
That is so easy. Tagline of my company right here.
All right.
Find your freedom. And that billboard would have the bird cage and the bird outside of that freaking cage. Because you know what? Too many people are living their lives absolutely trapped. And this is part of why I believe in this form of investing and in syndicating and getting investor money to help residents to create this whole, beautiful circle of wins.
Yep.
Because guess what? People who don't feel shackled, let me back up. If I push somebody into the corner, if I back you into a corner in a conversation, in whatever it is, your defenses are going to flare up and you're going to be really cranky. Okay. And too many people are feeling backed into a corner. They're feeling caged. And what do we see in our world? A lot of really cranky defensive people. Yep. So I just say everybody needs their freedom. I find my freedom first and foremost through my faith. And, you know, like, you have to find your freedom so that you can go and live this powerful life. And then you get to go and help free other people.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. That is an incredible tagline. And, you know, I hope to see that billboard someday. And, you know, what would be really fun is to aggregate all the folks that's been on the LiveFree Investors podcast and have everybody put in $100 and we go buy, we come in together and we get a billboard, and we have a billboard for a year that has everybody's taglines all over them, or maybe just one. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my tail here, but it'd be a lot of fun.
I think that would be really cool. And actually, I think having a little artistic
cool, right?
flair, I think it'd be way cool. Way cool.
I don't know where we would put it.
You know? Wait, you know what we could do? Better yet, in your awesome city, in Kansas City, you need to find a wall, because all the murals are so like in vogue right now. So you need to get an artist. You need to get a wall. You need to get an artist, and just let the artist go to town.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
I like that even more than a billboard.
Yeah, I might have actually a few buildings that we could do it on too. So cool, awesome. Well, look at that. Cool ideas coming up. So most important question of the podcast here, I ask every single guest: what is your best tip on living free on a regular basis?
Find whatever is encumbering you and destroy it. Tip number one, like, do not ever run. Look whatever it is square in the eyes, because it only has power over you because you give it power. So you find what's holding you back, and you say, you're not this, whatever it is, it's not going to hold me back. And that means you're going to put in some elbow grease and some work, but you're going to find yourself on the other side of that. And on the flip side, find what's working for you and embrace it and love it and hug it and snuggle close.
I love that. Yes. You know, the best investment that you will ever make is in yourself. And sometimes your breakdowns can be breakthroughs in disguise. So thank you for sharing that, spoken like a true, not only investor and business owner, but just one of the most exciting, fun, loving, caring individuals I have ever come across in the commercial real estate space, and straight from a cold call that my phone rang, or, you know, or at least it was, hey, here's my number, give me a ring and I'll answer. I don't know.
No, I straight up no, this is even worse. I called you off of LoopNet.
There we go.
Like, nobody is even supposed to be on LoopNet, you know? Yeah. And here I am calling you because I see this opportunity.
I love it. And, you know, 6 months later, we are building a relationship together and hope to do some projects. So, you know, Julie, thank you so much. I just want to acknowledge you for the work that you're doing, the mission that you are on, but the way that you do it. And I think if we continue to, you know, have folks like you in the industry, that is going to spread. And when that spreads, the ripple effect starts to happen. All of the caterpillars start to turn into butterflies. And you know what? My children's books are really pretty with all those butterflies. So they've got to be good things. And so anyways, absolutely. I want to say thank you. I want to acknowledge you. If somebody wanted to reach out, learn more about your firm and what you're up to, where can they find you, and how is the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's a happy spot. So find me, Julie Holly, on LinkedIn. And if you want to check out Three Keys Investments and what we're all about, just go to threekeysinvestments.com, all spelled out. And I know you're only supposed to give a couple, but you can also check out Ask Me How I Know podcast. And we do Mindset Mondays. And that is a powerful way to launch your week and then to catch an investor.
Yeah. Your content is well thought out. It is well put together. And I absolutely enjoy all of the videos that you put out. So great work. All right. This is Logan Freeman with the LiveFree Investors Podcast, where investors and business owners share investment advice so you too can live free. For more insights and ideas on how you can live free today, visit threekeyinvestments.com. Ask me how, right?
threekeysinvestments.com, or Ask Me How I Know.
Ask Me How I Know.
And that's the podcast.
And that is the podcast.
The website be done. It'll all be in one spot.
All right, there we go.
Excited.
We're both on LinkedIn all the time. Probably too much, but it is a good place to spend some time.
It's scheduled. It's scheduled.
There we go. I love it. Julie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Logan.
Until next time, guys and gals, live free.